in case you missed my video from a few months ago, I started intermittent fasting. I did it because I was having some issues from aging. Sure. And I wanted to make some changes to my diet to help me along. And so it's something that I looked into and decided that's what I'm going to do. And everything was going great. I had lost some weight. I was feeling pretty good. Not that I'm feeling bad, but a symptom came creeping back up on me that I had had relief from for quite a while. And that is my tummy problems. So I started thinking, what in the world? Because I was, doing everything that I had read that I should do. Like most people said, cut out that fresh milled flour. That's not going to work. You have to stop eating that for this to work. There was a lot of people who said that in different videos, books, lots of comments on that video. You really should stop eating all of those carbs. And so I did. I said, okay, I'll just cut way, way back on that. And I was not eating very much at all. Sometimes I go days without eating any fresh milled flour bread. And my stomach issues have creeped back up on me. And so I decided, well, let me start putting them back in because I can't deal with this. I mean, it's awful. I can't even tell you. And so a few days ago, or several days ago, I decided, you know what? Just because somebody says something works, it may work for 80% of the people, but there may be 20% of us that need something that's in that, flour. And so I'm already feeling better. So I wanted to make this video because I think it's important that we don't think that everybody's exactly the same. When you read someone's advice about, you can read everything. Don't eat meat. Don't eat bread. Don't eat dairy. There's diets where you just don't eat anything. And so something just kind of, I don't know, snapped at me, and I was like, that's the one thing that I added to my diet in these past years that really did make a difference. And so I decided to add it back in, and I'm seeing such relief, and I'm so excited. What I'm doing here, if you have a stiff starter and you want to make pancakes, you're going to need to reconstitute, or not reconstitute, but thin it out so that you can actually make pancakes with it. And so what I do is put a few spoonfuls of sourdough starter in a bowl, add water, and I will actually measure this to make sure I got a cup. If I don't, I'll add some flour because it's kind of thin, or I'll add some more, starter. Or if it's thick, I'll add some more milk or water and then just let it ferment for the day because I'm making a fun recipe this evening. So stay tuned for that. But that's how I get around. I had someone ask me, well, how do you make pancakes if your sourdough starter's so stiff? I just add some water until I get a cup or thereabouts, and then I make my pancakes. So back to the bread. I think that for some people, and obviously I think I'm one of them, there's this enzyme in fresh milled flour that is really important for digestion, and so I think I really need it. Real quick, you see me turning that knob and turning it and turning it and turning it and turning it. That's because I had to take the knob out to clean the threads. They had gotten so packed with flour that my knob wasn't turning at all. And so I'm going to make a video about this because I imagine this is a problem that anybody's going to have. If you mill fine flour regularly, I've been using this meal for, I don't know, almost 2 years. So it isn't like it happens all the time, but it is something that can happen. And so I'm going to make a video showing you how easy it is to take care of that. So if your knob is hard to turn, look for a video coming soon about how to fix it. I am milling some really fine flour so that I can make some kamut sandwich bread. I'll leave a link for that recipe in the description box. But what I have found is if I eat one serving of my fresh milled flour bread or muffins with each meal, I'm fine. But if I go any less than that, my stomach starts acting up. And it doesn't just like a little, it really becomes a problem. And so I'm going to keep eating it. Now, another thing that I'm doing is getting back on milk kefir. I was on milk kefir for a long time, but what I found out by following, I don't know if you follow her, but her name is Jamie Balmain, and she is on Instagram. She has a podcast here on YouTube and everywhere podcasts are, and she has so much valuable information for homeschooling and family and eating healthy. And she was saying, you really need to eat a lot of, or drink a lot of this milk kefir for it to really do what it's supposed to do. And when she was telling how much she consumed, I was like, wow, I was only consuming like an eighth of that. No wonder I didn't see any real changes. And so now we are consuming a lot of milk kefir every day. And so we just kind of started with that. So I'll keep you updated on if we see any, big changes. What I'm doing here now is getting some yeast ready because I need bread and in a hurry. We are completely out. And so I'm going to just make my simple kamut sandwich bread recipe here. Couldn't be easier. I love when I'm not going to long ferment my bread products. I almost always, at least 99% of the time, I'm going to use an ancient wheat, whether it's einkorn, spelt, kamut, emmer, even rye, just some really, really easy to digest wheat berry. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm making my bread. I let the flour soak in the water for a while, and then I'll go back and add a little bit of flour to get the dough to where it needs to be. But this helps it not only be softer and last longer, but it also helps it knead a little bit quicker as well. A lot of people ask about, like, how do you know if your dough is kneaded? There's a window pane test that I never do. You can do it. You can take a little piece of the dough and try to stretch it. But if the dough is stretchy, watch when I lift up on that. See how stretchy that dough was stretching onto that dough hook? That's all I need. If it's doing that, I feel very comfortable in that the dough is kneaded properly. It'll be smooth, glossy, stretchy. That's pretty much all that I worry about. Now you can hand knead. I get that question all the time. Of course you can hand knead. I hand kneaded for years. The only thing about hand kneading dough is it's just natural to want to add more flour because the dough's sticky at first. And the more flour you add, the drier the dough's going to be, the more dense it's going to be, and more crumbly it's going to be. With a stand mixer, you won't have to add that. Now, can you spy my new Nutri-Mill bread pan? I love it. It's so nice. Somebody already asked me, what's the difference between this one and your regular Lodge cast iron loaf pans? They're both cast iron. The big difference is that the enameled one doesn't rust if you don't use it for a while. So you know how cast iron, especially in the summer in our house, if I leave off making sandwich bread for a week or two, when I go back to get the loaf pan out, it's rusted, and I have to scrub it before I can use it again. And with these, you don't have to. Now, the difference with these is they tend to be, they need a little more grease or oil or whatever, because like with raw cast iron, it will build up a non-stick coating or seasoning. And these ones have like a really smooth enamel, which makes them easy release, but you still have to always grease them before you use them. Whereas like with my large loaf pans, I wouldn't have to grease them at all if I didn't. I just like it because it gives it a crust, but you don't have to once they're seasoned. So these are really easy to take care of, though. If you're the person that says, I don't want to have to, re-season my cast iron, or I don't want to have to, deal with that. These are the best of both worlds. You can just wash them in hot soapy water. You don't have to worry about them. They're really simple to take care of. And so I like them. They're really heavy. They have nice handles. Now, I'm going to be making a video soon. I wrote it down. All the different loaf pans. I have so many. You all are going to be like, wow. But I don't know. It's just, when you make a lot of bread, it takes a while to figure out what kind of loaf pan you want. And I've had a lot. And so I'm going to go through those. But there's my bread. It's beautiful. And here's the Dutch oven. That you can get also. It has the golden handle. It's a 6-quart, and the bread pan is 8x4. That gives you a reference for size. But really, really nice pieces and very affordable. If you look at like some of the other really high-end brands of enameled cast iron, they're crazy expensive. So I think it's worth it to to try them out because they're much less expensive. I'm making our smoothie here. What I've been doing is for lunch, I make a smoothie and have like a muffin, and that's all. I'm not really usually hungry at lunch because we eat a later breakfast. So I don't need like a big meal. These smoothies and just a muffin are perfect for me. It's light. I don't feel overfull, and I seem to just do better throughout the day if I don't eat too much for lunch. And so, but yeah, there's lunch, and it is going to be so good. Speaking of fermented things in your diet, our main consumption is yogurt and milk kefir, but I like to ferment vegetables too, whether it be sauerkraut or, like I'm doing right now, some fermented salsa with some of our fresh tomatoes and peppers. I like to have a lot on hand. They last for like up to a year in the fridge, so you don't have to like hurry up and eat them. And it's just so good for someone like me who has a lot of past stomach issues. The fresh milled flour and the ferments, like those are the two things that if I could only choose, two things to eat, it would be fermented foods and fresh milled flour. I would give up lots of other things to have those. And so just because of the way that they make me feel. And we're all different. You may be like, I cannot live without meat. Or I couldn't give up cheese or something like that. But for me, it's fermented foods and fresh milled flour bread. I thrive on those two things. And so those would be my two picks. What would be your two picks if you could only have like two things that you could eat? Fermented salsa could not be easier. You just chop up the tomatoes, add some salt, add some pepper, cilantro, onions, garlic, whatever you have, and then pack it into a wide mouth quart mason jar and put a fermenting cap on it. It takes about 2 days in the summer. I would imagine in the winter it could take a few more days, but just kind of wait for it to stop bubbling. A good rule of thumb is for every 2 cups of tomatoes, add 2 teaspoons of salt. So for a quart, it's going to be 4 teaspoons of salt. They give you an idea, You don't have to add water. When you put the fermenting weight, because the tomatoes are naturally juicy, the water will raise up to the top and cover the tomatoes, so you don't have to worry about mold or anything like that. And it's quick. We will have fermented salsa, a whole quart size. That's so much better for us than not fermented, and tastes absolutely amazing to have with eggs or nachos or whatever. It will be so good. All right, so now I am going to move on to making this really special dinner. It's a carrot cake pancake. This was my husband's idea because all of the carrots he raised this year, he did such a good job of taking care of them. And look at these carrots. We have a whole drawer full of these, and these are small. The most of them are huge. But he was like, why not a carrot cake sourdough pancake? And I was like, okay, definitely. And so I'm just going to shred them on the really fine side and add them to my sourdough pancake mix and top them with that cream cheese frosting. That's just softened cream cheese and a half a cup of maple syrup. And I used to use an immersion blender. You can use any blender, and blend it up and top the pancakes with it. They were so delicious. And it was a treat. It's not something we're going to have very regularly, but I had to get pictures. And so I said yesterday morning, I said, why don't we have those pancakes for dinner so I can get pictures of them? And he was like, that's fine with me, because he loves sweets. And so I was like, okay. So, yeah, these were really good. The baking soda reacts with the sourdough starter, and they get the real puffy and full of bubbles. Makes for the absolute best pancakes. If you are looking for a sourdough pancake recipe, I'll link it in the description box below. Now, this recipe may not be out yet. I'm still working on it, but as soon as it's out, I will definitely come back and link it in the description box below. Thank you all so much for joining me for today's video. Please leave me a comment down below if you have bought into a diet and found out that it made you feel worse than ever. And I'd love to hear from you all. All right, we'll see you next week, same day, same time.